So that's the healing brush selection. Let's come back to our original image now. Next down we have our paintbrush, and within this we've got brush tool, pencil tool, color replacement tool, mixer brush. We'll just basically just run through the brush tool and the pencil tool here. It's they're really simple. Let's go back to, let's add a blank layer over the top here, and we've got our paintbrush selected, and basically it'll allow us to paint on the image. And you can use the brush tool for a variety of options. It doesn't have to be painting. It can be used with layer masks and things like that, and for masking areas out. But that's basically what the brush tool does. Up here you've got a bunch of options where you can change the size and the hardness of the brush, and you've got a different amount of custom brushes that you can use there. But there's plenty of good tutorials on using the brush tool. So we'll lose that layer there. We'll add another blank layer in there, and we'll just quickly look at the pencil tool now. And as the name suggests, it's very much like the brush tool, except we're going to get straighter, thinner lines. And again, with any of these tools, if you want to adjust them on the fly, if you use the square bracket keys next to the P, the left-hand one will decrease the size of it, and the right-hand one will increase. So let's come down, make a nice small one. And as you can see, we get nice, thin, pencil-type lines. So that's your pencil tool. I'm going to put these back as I go along. Back to the brush tool. Next down we have our clone tool. And the keyboard shortcut for this is S. So press S on your keyboard and you'll get the clone stamp tool. And the clone stamp tool is another great tool. Let's say again we want to remove the road cone here. And we're going to do it by covering over it with a sample of this part of the road. So we could put a fresh blank layer in. And if you hold down Alt, that'll give you your target to sample. Let's click on that part of the road there, and we come across and we'll line it up over the top. You get a little preview in there. Click and drag around, and there, really quickly you've managed to get rid of something in the image by using the clone tool. That's the clone tool for you. The other option within the clone tool is the pattern stamp tool, and you can load patterns in or save patterns. Up here you get a bunch of define, well, not a bunch, you haven't got many at all actually, you've got 5 here. There's bubbles, there's a rainbow kind of effect, a metallic effect, a 50% grey or fine grain, and a grey granite. So if you've got the bubbles one, click and drag, and it's just giving you a bubbles pattern. Why you'd want to use it on this image, I don't think you would, so we'll get rid of that. Let's have a look at the grain one and see how we can use that. So let's just paint a bit of grain over that. I'm sure if we wanted to use that as an effect, we could lower the opacity there. Yeah, and give us a little bit of a grain effect. But that's basically the pattern stamp tool there. Put back the clone stamp. Next one down is our history brush. History brush tool. And basically what this will do is undo things you've already done. So let's quickly mess this up. Let's paint across there. Like that. And let's come to our history brush, and we'll click the history brush, and now if we click and drag, it will undo what we just did. It's not erasing anything out, it's just reversing the command that was there that we used to paint with the brush tool in the first place. Next one down is the art history, and basically this is just, it's like a bit of a filter. So if I just paint over the car, it's kind of giving us a stylized look to the image. Let's just do that and mess it right up. But that's basically it. It's giving a stylized image. I think it's much more used in design than it is in photography. So we'll put that back to where it was. We'll get rid of that layer because that's a proper mess. And we'll put another layer in there. Next one down is our eraser tool. And our keyboard shortcut for this is E. So we press E on that. And as the name suggests, what this will do is erase parts of the image. So if I use it there, now it doesn't look like it's done anything because I've got a background layer turned off, but if I turn the background layer off there, it's basically just going to erase the image as the name suggests. And you've got the same options here as you have with brushes to have hard edge, soft edge, things like that. So if you want to erase parts of the image out, if you're trying to cut this out from the background and just have the car left, you go all the way around the outside, probably not touching the car, and eventually just erase the background off from that. So let's put that back in there. We'll get rid of that layer there, and we'll move on to the next one in the set. So the next one down from that is the background eraser tool. And what we're going to do here is, this is a way to sort of erase certain sections. Let's say we wanted to erase the grass from the back here. So we hold down Alt to sample and we click, and you can see that it's changed our swatch color there. And now, let's turn the background off there so we can actually see what's happening. If we start to erase, it's just going to pick out, it didn't though, did it? It'll just erase the area that we want to erase. So that's basically what it's doing. You can pick the color that you're erasing from and make sure you're just erasing the area you want for the back to remove backgrounds. Next is the magic eraser tool, and this will sample colors and areas. So let's turn the background off again there, and let's again just swipe across the grass there, and you can see it's just taken out the grass because it's picking the colors. Obviously it's not doing everything perfectly, but it is just erasing specific colors that it's picking out and choosing from the image using the magic eraser. So that's that tool done. Let's come out of that now. Come back to the eraser tool. Next one down is your gradient tools. And gradients can be used for a lot of things. They can be used for layer masks. They can be used for a variety of different options. You've got a bunch of different options up here for the type of gradient tool. You've got linear gradient, radiant gradient, angular gradient, reflected gradient, diamond gradient. Let's go back to our blank layer here that we had before, and we'll turn off that and just work on the top layer here. So if I put it on a linear gradient and we just click and drag down, it's now going to produce a gradient between the background and the foreground colors. And again, you've got options here that you could quite easily, let's undo that one. If we change the colors here to a blue, if you come up here, you've got a bunch of different gradients you can pick from. There's others you can load in as well. There. And it's going to give us a variety of different gradients that we can use. Let's try one more. Let's try the radial gradient. Hold it in center, drag out, and then we're given sort of more like an eyeball kind of effect there. But that's the gradient tool. Like I said, you can use it for different things. You can use it for darkening down skies. You can use it for having a gradation on a mask that you're using. So there's a lot of options there. And the other option here is the paint bucket tool, which will basically do as, let's go back to the untitled one there. It will do as selected. So let's start using some of the tools now. Let's press M for the marquee tool. Let's drag that out there. Let's come back here. So G for the gradient. We'll pick the paint bucket tool, and that's going to use the foreground color there. If I just click in there, and it's going to fill that shape in with the foreground color we had there. So that's basically what the paint bucket tool does there. So it's Control Z and come out of that now. Next one down, let's come back to our car image. We have a bunch of options here, which is the blur tool. And you see we don't have a keyboard shortcut for this because I don't think it's used that often. So the blur tool, as the name suggests, will blur parts of the image. So let's come in a little bit there. I've already got a bit of movement in this as it is. But if I use the blur tool, and we'll use it on the number plate here, you can see now just by clicking and dragging, it's actually blurring that part of the image out. Next one in the list now, strangely, is the sharpen tool, and this will do the opposite. So let's just do around this headlight here, and you can see that's sharpening it up. Obviously it will add noise in because sharpening normally does. And the last one in this set is the smudge tool. Let's bring this back here, and basically what this will do, if I click and drag off the back of the car, it's going to smudge and distort like it's wet paint, and you can pull it and distort it and smudge it. It's quite often used for skin softening and things like that with the smudge tools, for sort of blending tones of skin together. But you can see there, that's what the smudge tool does. Just click and drag and it will smudge areas of the image that you clicked. Next down, we're doing quite well at the moment, is our dodge and burn, and we've used this on various different tutorials before. So let's zoom in a little bit just on the car, and we'll just show you quickly with the dodge and burn. So the dodge tool, which is this little stick icon there, will use for lightening areas up. So if I click and drag, you can start to see that it's lightening areas up there. We can lighten up around the window. Like that. Next one down is the burn tool, which is a little hand symbol, and this will do the opposite. So it's burn in the bottom of the car. That's going to darken areas up for us. Let's darken the windscreen down there. So that's done that, and the last one in that selection is the sponge tool. And basically what this will do, it's, if you think of sponge and washing, it'll wash out the colours and desaturate the colours. So if I just start to do that, you can start to see it's taking the colour saturation out of the orange there. It's not a very nice effect, but that's what the sponge tool does. So let's bring that back down there. And we're going to go on to the pen tool. Now the pen tool, I'm not going to go into great detail. It's there's a lot of really good tutorials, and we will do a tutorial on this at some point. But the pen tool is very complex, and it can be difficult to learn and get a hang of. You see we've got a keyboard shortcut of P, and let's put it on the pen tool. And now we've got like the nib tip of a pen appearing on the screen. And the pen tool's used for making fine selections. I'm just going to quickly go through this. I'm not massively au fait with the pen tool. So we're going to click there and make an anchor point, and we're going to move across, and we're going to make another anchor point there. Before we let go, just drag on a little bit further in the direction that you're going to want the selection to go, and let go. Now you can see that we've started to make a selection, but it's not quite touching the roof. If you hold down the control, you get a little arrow, and you can slightly start to nudge that line up more to start to fit with the contours of the roof. And you start to get these handles on the end here, which you can drag out or drag in to make this line more defined. And it's really good for picking out really difficult selections. If you're trying to, if you wanted to cut this car out completely and have it looking really crisp and really good, the pen tool is the way to go. But using the pen tool is a whole nother series on its own, really. There's an awful lot to the pen tool, so we'll come back to that at another point. Next one down is T, and this stands for type tool. It's going to take a little while to initiate, and as the type tool suggests, it's a way of adding text to your images So let's put a, let's say we wanted to type on this image. Let's click in there and we're going to get a line come up, and let's just type zoom, and you can see there that we have the type tool there. We've got the family font there, which you can click down and change your font. I'm going to keep it on impact. You've got your type size there. Let's make it bigger. Sorry, I've got to click on there to actually initiate it. So let's click in there and it tells us, right, so let's go to the type size, make that bigger. You then got options for all different types of type, and you can change the color of your type here. Let's go for an orange. Let's go for a red. Click OK, and there you go. We've got type within there that you can place anywhere around the image, and that's your type tool. That's your basic type tool. Let's get rid of that one. Next down in the list there, you've got vertical type tool, and much like the other one, this will now give us vertical type. So if you wanted to, you know, do something where you've got like an advertisement or a book spine, you've then got vertical type that you can use for doing that as well. There's two other options in the type tool, which will basically make masks of your typing. So there you go, it's masking it out. If I now type, that again, and there we go. It's given us a mask area there. Let's move that around there, and it's actually taken a piece of the car and used it as the filling for the typeface. Let's get rid of that. Nearly there. Let's put that back on type tool for me. Next is your path selection tool. I'm not going to go too much into this. It's if you have a path area that you have selected, you can go back onto it. Let's make a path with the lasso tool. Path selection tool. So yeah, it helps you just select paths and areas that you're using in it. Next one we have is our quick shape, and we've got a bunch of options here, which is rectangle tool, rounded rectangle tool. Let's go back to our blank document here, and this will show you what we're using with that. So let's say we have rectangle tool, and this again is going to use the foreground and background color. So if I just do a rectangle there, it's going to fill it in with the foreground color there. Let's change the color around. So it's that. Let's try the next shape down. Is a rounded rectangle. And it will basically just give you shapes that you want. So if you're doing design work, or you want a badge or a banner or something over, and you can see each of these has been made into a smart object, so you can work on them and move them around and resize them as you go. And final one there is the custom shape, and I think you've got a bunch of different custom shapes here that you can pick from. And there you go, and there's your shape tools there. Next one here is your hand tool, and and you kind of need something to move around, really. Let's zoom in. If I zoom in on the image and then go back to our hand tool, that'll allow you to move, click and drag, and you can move around the image to your heart's content. You also have rotate view tool, which will help you to rotate the image. And finally, in our tool selection here, we have the zoom tool, and it does exactly what it says on the tin. It gives you a little magnifying glass with a plus, and you can pick an area there. I've gone way too big there. So let's say we just want to pick up that area of the car there. It will zoom into that area of the car, and you can see there we've got the zoom tool. And if you just click it, it will go to the next jump. There is 200%. Hold down Alt, you get a minus, and that will zoom back out, clicking that way. So there we go. We've run through the entire toolbar, top to bottom. Hopefully that's been of use. Hopefully there's something in there that you haven't used that you think, oh yeah, you might use for your next Photoshop project. But until next time, I'm Dave Vickers. This is a photo show. Thanks for watching.